Well, there seems to be more drama unfolding for Washington County's Board of Education. Harsh words between the city of Hagerstown's mayor, Dave Gysberts, and Board of Education member Karen Harshman over whether or not downtown Hagerstown is a safe place for our community's children has fueled some tempers. Support for the academic hub and a music video. Emily, is the board ready for its own reality TV show, you think?
I think so. I think they were ready for a reality show way before they got elected, even during the election. I also think it's time for a reality check, though. They're there to represent our children. We voted them in to represent our children. I have a second grader in Lincolnshire. It's important to me. They're supposed to be a voice for them, not acting like the children.
Like you're right,
that's
exactly.
what
Yeah,
they're
thank
acting
you.
like.
Thank
Wow.
And,
Yes.
That's harsh, man. Oh.
You've been waiting half a second to say that, haven't you?
I mean, you watched them on Facebook? I mean,
Sure.
during the election, they were slamming each other's names, creating memes about each other. It's like, these are adults. We're grown men and women. You can't
No,
do
they're
that.
not. They're buffoons in some cases.
It's at least half the board, anyway.
It's just unbelievable. I've never seen anything like this. And we elected those. We have a propensity in this community
Yes.
to elect some real interesting people, not only at the Board of Education, but in other positions.
Well, and interesting is not necessarily a compliment. And I think, there's definitely the behavior to be worried about here, but I think the substance that's more important is actually the criticism of downtown, which I just really don't agree with. Certainly as with every town in the world, we have our problems and we have our challenges with certain sections of the population, but I'd love to give her a ride an hour and a half east of here and drop her off on a street corner in West Baltimore, and then get a report about how safe downtown Hagerstown is.
Well, you do realize that once you got to the top of South Mountain, she would think you were going to fall off and dragons were going to eat you. So she wouldn't go with you, okay? Hey, listen, here's the problem. In this downtown conversation about whether it's safe or unsafe, whether it's perceived or real or whatever it is, has been going on for 50 years in Hagerstown, okay? It was going on when Hagerstown was booming in downtown, and it's been going on ever since. Back in 2012, when the Board of Education was talking about actually locating the Board of Ed in downtown, in the core, Ms. Harshman had something to say about that also, which fueled my temper when I was the mayor then, because she said that, she went downtown to the county administration building to have a meeting, and she could not find a place to park. She had to park a whole block away.
Ooh,
now,
terrible.
Wow.
I'm sorry, I happen to see a pattern here forming, and maybe, Tim Rowland was right, maybe it's about walking, I don't know, because she complained about the parking out at the Board of Ed, it was too far away from the front door.
Yeah.
But, I have I just wanted to satisfy her a little bit and maybe calm her fears a bit. I called HPD, some of my contacts up there, and I got the current crime stats from last year and this current year. And the core of Hagerstown, which they look at as a private sector, a separate sector in the sectors of the city of Hagerstown, which is about a 12 square block, there is less than 15% of all the crime occurs in that 12 block area.
Right.
Less than 15%. And the highest being aggravated assault, okay, which I hate to tell her, but these are criminals assaulting criminals.
Right.
These are not criminals assaulting unsuspecting, average Joes who are on the street.
In most cases.
Well, in many of the cases, not just, in a majority of the cases.
Right.
So, and I believe that, say what you want to about Ryan Minor, but, he had some very good points at the Board of Education meeting recently, where he showed, during school hours, there are kids, traversing back and forth from the Barbering School for the Arts and the University of Maryland.
Yep.
And there are always at least 2 auxiliary policemen and a regular policeman,
Right.
and the principal and the assistant principal, who are walking with these kids.
Right.
There is nothing going to happen to these kids in the downtown when school's in session. University of Maryland has been there now 10 years in full swing. And there have been and there was all this perceived, oh my God, no one's going to go there because the crime is so bad and these students are going to be afraid, and it's not happening.
No, they
okay?
love it. They're the ones backing
Yes,
it. And
yes.
they're speaking out in favor of the academic hub and everything else. I mean, they were there last night.
Oh, en masse,
Representing
yes
against
indeed.
her.
Yes,
But
indeed.
here's the
Against
deal.
those comments.
Two points that I'd like to make. Number one, Ms. Harshman might have benefited from from Ryan's comments had she not gotten up and walked
Right,
out.
she stayed in the room and listened to him, actually, yeah.
But she took her marbles and went home. That being said, the other thing that I think is this brings specific circumstance to a broader problem, which is, in my opinion, Ms. Harshman is a one-trick pony. She had one issue she wanted to get elected to address, and anything outside of the scope of that issue, I don't think she has a grasp of.
Teacher salaries, right?
Yeah, I don't think she has a grasp of this, and I don't, frankly, think she has a grasp of a lot of other things.
No,
She doesn't know anything about a budget, I know that much.
No, and
But we keep re-electing her.
Bob said something very pertinent, and I know it was jokingly, that she would be afraid of falling off the edge of the world when she crossed South Mountain. And I think all of her comments up to date seem to indicate a very insular philosophy or point of view about the world. She lives in a very isolated bubble, and straying outside of that bubble just takes her out of her comfort zone.
Absolutely.
And that's a little bit frightening when you're dealing with somebody who's making decisions for the school system.
Absolutely.
Especially when we're talking about vision and things
Absolutely,
like that.
because that's
Thinking
where we
outside
need
the
to be.
box.
You know, these children that we're training, it's not about training them for what's going to happen tomorrow. It's going to be training them for what's going to happen, 5 or 10 or 15 years out.
And to have the flexibility to
We've
be
got to
able
have
to
vision.
deal with it.
Absolutely, we've got to have vision, and
Well,
I don't see that on the current board. And I tell you, there's one or two others that, frankly, I supported that are on this current board that I'm a little miffed with, just based on their voting record.
Well,
One being Mike Gysberts, quite frankly.
I spoke with the mayor just recently, and we had a conversation about his conversation with Ms. Harshman on the phone when he called her and tried to talk intelligently and calmly with her about her fears, and she hung up on him. Now, I'm sorry, that is not representative of what I want a school board member to be like.
It's
You
childish.
know,
Well,
I
think
mean,
hanging up on a mayor, walking out of a meeting, that's
Yeah.
very childish behavior.
Yeah.
And it's not something that's representative of somebody who's in a position like hers.
No,
Oh,
you
exactly.
shouldn't be a public figure if you can't take criticism.
But we
That's
keep
part-
re-electing them.
well, because we don't know any better, apparently.
We have low standards.
We do, yeah.
And
And we're meeting them at every turn, I'm
And
telling you.
I'm
we
assuming
strive
everyone,
to
I'm assuming
continuously
everyone
lower
on this
standards.
panel has seen the video that's posted of her getting up and walking out. I hope during election cycle that video will be played over and over and over and over again, because the 17% of the people in this county that actually go to the polls and vote need to see that.
Oh, yeah.
I
they
think
need
the
to
background
understand.
music they chose to play with it too should also
It was
be
good, yeah.
played.
It was funny. Well, anyway, listen, that's the last word on that. We're going to give that one to Emily. Next up on the flip side, 2 presidential debates within a week of one another. Is the candidate field getting any easier to narrow? Well, stick around and find out. I'm sure we'll hear some interesting stories about this.
From you.
Back in 3 minutes.
Back in 3 minutes, yeah.